Sponge5 here again. We are going to be talking a little bit more of a tabletop inside sort of a review necessarily with this. I've already kind of done a video on that. You can go check it out on my channel, but this is kind of more the small little details and kind of some tips and tricks necessarily with break barrel air gun, literally of any kind. This is the 22 cal Gamma Whisper Fusion Match 1. Velocity is 1,100 FPS. With alloy pellets, it says literally right on the gun. Necessarily, it's very powerful. We are going to quickly show you a comparison of the real 22 pellet. So this is a 22 on the right, LR necessarily, and this is a 22 cal BB tip pellet. They're very good at destroying things, but obviously I would choose this if I had the land for it. This necessarily is what goes with the 22, just for a comparison. You can literally see it basically on both sides. They are literally the same size. Alright, so the next thing is basically the tips and tricks part about this. Well, the tips and tricks that I kind of figured out personally is over the years I've shot thousands and thousands and thousands of pellets because I like shooting a lot. The thing is, I just like a basic gun. I'm kind of an iron sights guy. I'm one of those rare guys that just don't use scopes. I have used scopes in the past. It's just I like using iron sights and I've hit a lot of squirrels with them. But the thing is, it's pretty tricky with this gun. It's more of a sniping, bigger, bulkier. It is obviously meant for that size of air piston that's inside. The tips and tricks that almost nobody tells you is that these pins inside of here, necessarily not pins, bolts I would mean, both of them, make sure they're tight every once in a while. If you ever drop your gun on the floor accidentally, or just over time, you probably want to tighten them up with an Allen wrench or some sort of a star shape Allen wrench, just because I've had them drop out, some of the cheaper versions of air guns. So the second tip is going to be real quick. Tip number 2 is basically caulking. Now, a lot of people find break barrels to be really hard to caulk, and the easiest way that I found it to do is put it directly on your shooting side of your body. That way you have something to push against while you're going to do it. A lot of people, they grab right here where it's very hard to even caulk. I mean, I'm going to demonstrate to you, it's not easy to caulk it right there. You want to go as far as necessary, and this is where it gets a little dangerous sometimes. Not necessarily life-threatening or anything, but it's going to hurt you if you don't do it right. Sometimes this gun will be already loaded, but I'm going to show you just the first tip here is you want to hold way up here. So when you cock it, you want to cock it sideways, not necessarily this way, is because when it's already cocked, you think it's hard to cock, and then something happens, and one time I got cut in the face from this triangle piece, and that was not very nice, so I learned to cock it sideways. That's number 2. Right, so tip number 3 will be basically when you're a little bit more weaker or just smaller size or just a younger person, probably get used to kind of the cocking version. Even when I'm like, not exactly small, it was very hard. It was like hurting my shoulder for a long time. It's like, what is wrong with me? Am I just not exercising enough? It was because there's so much grease that they put in from the factories because you need a WD-40. One thing though, this right here, ladies and gentlemen, is where you can accidentally put oil down the actual, the piston part or the air part, whatever you call that, is when WD-40 goes down there, you won't have an air gun anymore. That's one thing that I did to one of the old guns. I'm pretty sure that's probably one of the problems with it. Tip number 4 coming up. Alright, we're going to do a trigger pull test, poundage test. As you can tell, it is empty. That way we can dry fire it in our room without getting a major hole in our wall. So, here we go. It's about 2.5 pounds it is. Let's see there, if you can see that correctly. 2.5 pounds or so. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it is about 2.5 pounds. So it's not actually heavy. I didn't even mess with the, there's actually a, obviously the more reviews people will say that it has an adjusting screw. Alright, tip number 4 here, I think it is. Necessarily shoot the pellets that you're going, sight in your gun with the pellets you're going to be shooting or hunting with. With this gun, I mean, you know, I could say that it's pretty good at accuracy. It is very good at accuracy. I've hit well over 30 yards pretty decently, but 30 yards is probably good enough for a 22 cal. Maybe that's just me with iron sights, but I'm pretty sure you could do really well with a scope with this. I've used somebody else's gun that had a scope, and it was hitting just as good as a real 22 LR really fantastically. So, I mean, you know, if you're worried about the noise, now tip number 5 will definitely tell you this is definitely something that really, I would not necessarily think it works. I mean, it works very well. Like if you're comparing a non-suppressed 22 LR, if you're worrying about noise about neighbors or just getting in the next squirrel or just rodent or whatever, I would say it works about 95%. I mean, it gives like, you know, we're kind of in a muffled area. We're not outside, but I can dry fire it for you to kind of show you. As we can tell, it is empty, literally, completely. We'll point it at the ground. Here goes the trigger pull. So it gives quite a bit of a thunk sound. It's a little weird. You can see that it jerks a little bit more. And that much jerk is not, that much kickback, that much recoil, excuse me, is not going to hurt your shoulder unless if you're holding it like completely sideways. How does it feel? Well, it feels to me like it's a sniping gun. It's not necessarily a speed shooting gun. That's more of my thing. But it feels like I can definitely get, you know, it fits right in the shoulder pretty well. This part works. The cheek piece works really well. The trigger pull, it's kind of a flat trigger slash round. I mean, it's a pretty basic gun. I mean, there's nothing really too bad about it. It's very tough. There's nothing that shakes or rattles, even though I've dropped it maybe a few times or so, maybe once, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it's a very simple gun. It's you know, it's about 6.5 pounds or so. So it is a kind of a beefy gun. It is a 22 cal, obviously. So we'll see you next time on Moto Spice 5 in the next video.